Ladies and gentlemen, let the games begin. It's finally time to get after this Kenne Bell twin screw supercharger that I'm going to be bolting onto my 1992 Foxbody Coupe. Now, to provide you with a little bit of insight as to how this project is going to unfold, I want to explain a couple of things. So I bought this supercharger in secondhand used format. And as you can tell by some of this fab work, it was intercooled is why it looks that way. And intercooling these superchargers was not something that Kenne Bell offered. It was something that people did after the fact. So it was intercooled at one point in its life, and then the individual I bought it from had unintercooled it and welded this all up. Now, I don't want to bolt this onto my car in this type of status. I ultimately want to clean this up and make it look pretty. I also want to return it to the way Kenne Bell intended it to be run with this bypass valve. When this was unintercooled, you can still see some remnants of the welding here. There was a plate placed in here and this was all welded up. Same on the other side. So I've gotten after grinding this down just to kind of see what I was in for. It ultimately went relatively smoothly. I still have a little bit of work to do on this side. The other side haven't even started yet, but I need to ultimately figure out how I'm going to bolt this to the outlet side of this blower. Now, why I need to figure that out is the plate that's been welded in here, I'll try to give you a little look of it. It's thinner gauge aluminum than the cast that the outlet itself is made of. So, now whether or not you can see down in there, I would gauge that, the thickness of that at probably 1/8 of an inch. Like it's definitely nowhere near the thickness of the cast outlet itself. So I don't really have anything to bolt to because that plate lives like right here. And this bypass valve needs to bolt on there somehow. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is weld a 1/4 inch plate onto here that I can ultimately thread, run some Healy coils into, and then I can bolt this bypass valve in there. And now how this is all going to work is, once that's bolted back on the top of the blower, this will live here, and then I ultimately need a 90-degree elbow to go from here to here, and obviously a hose to connect the two. This is all threaded and it's just been blocked off with this, I don't even know if that's all full carbon fiber, but at least it has the look of carbon fiber. It's going to bolt where this carbon fiber block off plate is. So that needs to be put in there. And now why you want to run one of these is these twin screws make boost from idle, and a healthy amount of it. By no means what they're capable of making when they're spun up at higher RPMs, but they make boost at idle. And the idea behind this bypass valve is it's vacuum operated and your engine makes the most amount of vacuum, or at least it should, at idle. So while my engine is idling and the vacuum's its highest, it will ultimately be sucking on this nipple and opening this butterfly valve, which will ultimately allow the air to just circulate in from the inlet side to the outlet side to the inlet side, and I won't be throwing boosted air down into my engine when I don't want to be. And then ultimately, as you bring the RPMs up, this butterfly valve closes and you start, well, ultimately getting the results you want, which is boosted air going down into the engine. So that needs to happen. Again, a little bit of beautification over here, and then I ultimately need to find out how I want to paint this up and clean it up so it looks good under the hood of my car. All right, folks, status update for you here. So I've got my intake back from my buddy. Now, he ran into some difficulties in building this bypass tube for me. I think it was just a little bit outside of their capabilities. However, we're working with what we got. So I should mention that I obviously brought this back from his shop and then started into this, and I was like, you know what? This probably wouldn't be a bad time to update everybody as to what's going on. So this is the plate that's been added to the outlet side of the blower in order to bolt my bypass valve onto it. All right. Now, in putting this plate on there, things get hot as you're welding, right? And the plate warped. Now, I'm pretty sure you can see my scratch marks because I've already started sanding this in order to true it up. But essentially, see if you can get a decent view of this. We've got a pretty significant gap that needs to be made up with like high temp, high pressure RTV silicone, and I'm not too excited about that. So I'm going to go to the lengths that I'm currently going to with this sanding block and a flat piece of steel stock in order to true this up. I want to give it a good fighting chance in order to seal, because it's obviously going to be under however much pressure my blower ultimately puts out, which should be in and around 10 to 12 psi. So the saga continues. Now, this is the side, again, that my buddy built and tried his best, but I really don't think this is going to work. It's very, very archaic, and truthfully, it might do the trick, but even when you go to put a hose on this, like there's nowhere to put a hose clamp, right? So the way this works is this kind of lives here, and yeah. So whatever, it is what it is. Worst case scenario, I've got a bit of a template to work with, albeit it doesn't fit all that well. So I'm going to take another run at trying to build something, maybe get a 90-degree elbow from Vibrant and work with that. I got another buddy that can TIG weld. So anyway, sorry, long-winded way of saying we are making progress here, albeit very, very slow. And stand by, lots of sanding and fabrication to come. Okay, we got some color slapped on the outlet side of the blower. So I've kind of got this thing to a point where I'm satisfied with the cleanup job on it, and we're officially going back to brand new secondhand. The other side of this equation is this inlet side is rather beat up as well. So I think I'm gonna break the inlet off of the twin screw portion of the supercharger, and I'm also gonna buff some of these scratches and stuff out of it and clean it up as well. The outlet side of the intake is complete and ready to have hardware bolted onto it and ultimately have it bolted back onto the twin screw. I did not end up breaking the back half off of this, so this is the inlet side. All I did was mask and, well, shelter with my shop coat the front end of this thing, but I sprayed it on there. I just kind of looked at it and thought, you know what, is this another can of worms that I want to open up? Or do I leave it sealed, pull the bolts out of it, which are currently laying over here, and Lord only knows. You know what I mean? Like, the further you go into these projects, the nastier they can become. And all is well, to the best of my knowledge, inside of that blower. So I really didn't see any need for me to go to all the trouble of busting that back inlet off of the twin screws. And the last time I busted one of these off of here, well, the outlet side, I banged up my thumb. So anyway, thumbs are replaceable and fixable, but I just, yeah, this is kind of the direction I leaned into. Now, I wish I had better news for you on my bypass valve, but I don't. So I actually have an order placed right now for a 90-degree stainless elbow. And I've got some stainless at my buddy's shop laying around, some like flat plate that we're going to make a new flange out of and ultimately TIG up a 90-degree elbow and build this properly. So it actually mates up accordingly as it should from Kenne Bell. Again, I don't think any of you are going to blame me for revisiting this and ultimately scrapping this whole idea. It's just, yeah, not really what you want as a bypass valve, nor do you want it as the showpiece of the front end of your twin screw blower. So yeah, we're redoing that now. All right, ladies and gents, my apologies. Now, I really had hoped to have had this blower like put together, sitting on the bench, ready to go, like next step being, let's start pulling the top end off of this car and putting this thing on while I filmed this video. However, things happen, right? And I mean, that's just real life. And to be honest with you, I think some of you would probably enjoy seeing the real life end of it. Like, things don't always go as planned. There's shipping. There's face plants that happen when you think something's going to be one way and it turns out being another. That's just life, right? So I'm taking you guys along for that ride. But again, this is one video of many in the series. I'm going to do as good a job as I possibly can to document every step of this Kenne Bell blower, because I know there's a lot of you out there that read about them in the 90s. Maybe you've even got one that's sitting on your shelf. Hell, maybe it's in the same format that mine is. Right? It was intercooled at one point in time, and you ultimately need some ideas as to how to put yours back to OEM spec before you bolt it onto your car. So I'm going to document everything and anything I possibly can for anyone out there that's considering going down this road. So with all of that being said, thank you so much for tagging along, ladies and gents. I really do appreciate you. Sorry, I've been on a little bit of a hiatus lately. Some of you know what's been going on, but got some family things happening in the background. And life's just been a little crazy. So thanks for sticking around, guys. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take care. Bye for now.